And sweet. Okay, we're live. We're on the internet. Hi. Hi team. I'm so good at English, Josh. I'm so good at starting all this stuff out. I don't
will
have an
work
intro
hard to make
song.
better mouth. I think is what Amy Santiago would say.
Yeah. I'm working on it. But I am so glad for everybody coming to hang out tonight and have just a celebration live stream. Dr. Josh from Digital Hammurabi is here, graciously offered to help me out, help me out and have a co-host. And Skylar Fiction was going to be here tonight too, but he had some family stuff come up. So Josh and I are here without. I don't know if Skylar is. I don't know who's the adult supervision when the three of us are on his channel together, but like we need it. I don't know. Awesome. Hey, in the chat, if I'm actually live, please say it, because I'm nervous and I'm paranoid that I'm not actually live and I'm talking to the void.
You know, it's better than when I used to try to figure out how to go live with OBS. I have several times I was just sitting at my computer, you know, clicking around on stuff, and I saw this little side chat pop up that said, "Hi, Josh, we can see you." Like,
so that happened to me on. Oh, okay, yay! There's some live confirmations in the chat. Thank you, team. So on Wednesday, I did like a test live stream, and I thought you had to set it up in StreamYards and in YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. So I accidentally set up two live streams that started at the same time. Yep. And so the first like 2 minutes of my very first live stream ever is just me like, am I on the internet? Why are there two? What's happening? I feel like one of the skills I've gained in the last year of what I'm referring to as the troubles has been I am my advisor's tech support. And my advisor is not that old. He's like 10 years older than me. Like he's in his early 40s. But like what the best part was his son had his first birthday back over the summer, right? In the midst of the troubles. And so and like the grandparents are in like New Jersey and Georgia. And so I somehow was tech support for my advisor's parents for the 1-year-old. I was doing like, I was on the Zoom call for the baby's birthday, and I was like, okay, you know, Mr. My advisor's parent, sir, do you see a button in the corner that looks like a camera? Can you press that? That'd be.
Come on, Boomer.
Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. Meanwhile, the baby was very confused by the smash cake that I had made. He was not into it. He was very into the bananas that I decorated it with, but nice. He was not into the cake portion. He just wanted the bananas.
Speaking of making things for babies, I just have to. There's a show. Probably got it upside down. I do. You recognize this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
I had
snap.
So much fun making that.
It's huge. Like I can't get the whole thing in.
It is really big. I had no plan when I was like designing the size. It was like 12-inch blocks. It'll be fine.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. When I got home, Megan got it like middle of the day.
Yeah.
And said, "I got a package. Do you mind if I open it?" I said, "No, go ahead." Yeah, she was super excited.
I'm so glad that we surprised Megan, because you had been kind enough to help me not mess. I was terrified I was gonna say a bad word in Sumerian.
There was like one little cuneiform sign that needed tweaking. That was it. It was great. You did a great job.
And then my favorite part of making that quilt though was getting Megan's channel art and turning it into you and her, the cloth versions for the mother and father symbols.
It was funny.
So that I really liked doing that part. So that was a fun. So I'm not sure if you're aware, Josh, but I view like baby showers as competitive sports. I enjoy winning them. Most people aren't aware of that, and that's because that baby showers are in fact competitive, and that's because I always win.
I mean, I do want to thank you for like completely overshadowing the two knitted blankets that I made for the twins. So just blowing them out of the water. I really appreciate that.
I do what I can.
Oh gosh,
that was so much fun. And I've been like texting my grandmother. My grandmother lives in an assisted living facility, and she's been like, we haven't been allowed to see her for like a year, and she doesn't know how to work the text feature on her phone. But that doesn't stop me. So I was texting her pictures of it, and my mom finally got to go visit her and was like, here's what Maddie's been sending you. So she had like 50 pictures.
There's this small box that's been keeping me up in the middle of the night. Thought it was a ghost.
Yeah. No, my grandma turns her phone completely off unless she wants to call you. That's how it works.
Okay.
She doesn't want to waste the battery.
I see. Yeah, it's a big energy consumer.
It's a big energy consumer. Okay. So I threatened before we started the stream that I had some shenanigans I was going to try to rope you into tonight. And I didn't tell you what they were because I wanted to see how mad you were going to get at me. Are you familiar? I assume you are because you grew up, I think you were raised actually more evangelical than I was. You were more like in the cult and I was like cult adjacent. That's in your
cult adjacent.
I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, man. Everything there's cult adjacent.
Right.
So are you familiar with the brilliant artistry that is Chick Tracts?
No.
Oh my God.
Chick Tracts?
Chick Tracts. These are comic strip Bible tracts.
I mean, maybe I am, and I've just never heard him called that.
Made by, well, it's the guy's name, his last name is Chick. It's like John Chick. Jack, excuse me, Jack T. Chick. My bad.
I thought you were going to have us doing sword drills. Did you ever do sword drills?
That would be fun. I've never done sword drills. Wait, what are sword drills? Now I'm scared.
So, you take your Bible, right?
Okay.
You hold it like this.
Okay.
And the person who's running it stands up in front of the group and says, 1 Corinthians 7:2. 1 Corinthians 7:2. Charge. And you flip open 1 Corinthians 7:2 as quick as you can. And the first person to say the first word of the verse, then everybody stops. And then that person stands up and reads the verse out. And if they got it wrong, then you keep going. Wow. And then, all right, swords up. So you put your sword up in the air.
I would like to point out that even at my like evangelical Christian high school that I went to, we did not do that. Even with like, I had Bible class every year for all 4 years I was there. But like my Bible teacher was, my freshman year, he was finishing his degree in like, I don't know if it was biblical studies, but it was something where you learn Hebrew and Greek and all that fun stuff. It was at Oklahoma Wesleyan. Okay. And so he had no concept of how a high school class should be different from a college class. So we did a lot of, all right, guys, sophomore year, we're going to do the Old Testament and we're going to go book by book. And it's going to be, we're going to learn about who wrote it and in what culture. And we're going to learn. So it was actually weirdly, probably as, what's the word? Academic as it could have been for like a high school and for that cult adjacent like society.
Nice.
Nice. So I really value that. I actually really value that.
I remember talking to John Collins up at Yale.
Yeah.
And he was saying that so many of the seminary students from more fundamentalist conservative schools that he teaches, he said, while they have a lot of hermeneutical problems to overcome, he said one of the things that they don't struggle with is knowing where the books of the Bible are.
That's fair. Yeah.
Everybody,
That's fair.
they can find Habakkuk like that, you know.
Yeah. So there's a question of what would I think what would sword swallowing look at if that's the sword? I don't know. I'm not sure I want to know.
It sounds overtly sexual.
Yes. Okay. So
okay.
Jumping
into a Skylar fiction
trains
show.
of thought. Right. Completely changing trains of thought. Back to chick tracts. So I found one that's all about young earth creationism.
Oh, good.
And I thought we could do a dramatic reading.
All right. Hey, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in.
So do you want to be the evolutionist evil professor, or do you want to be the obnoxious but at the end right Christian student?
I would like to be the Christian student and pretend to be Kent Hovind. Do it in Kent Hovind's voice.
Yes, because Kent Hovind is cited so many times in this. He cites sources as Kent Hovind.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
I'm so excited. Okay, so you're going to be him. I'm going to be literally everyone else, including the like mumbling students in the background. So I put all of the like strips on a PowerPoint. So let's see if I can share that.
Awesome.
Share screen. Mm-hmm. Cool. I don't have 2 monitors. Screen sharing tips. It's fine. It's going to be whale. Okay. I'm going to do, sorry, I'm like closing out of all my other windows because I have to share my whole screen. So that's fair. And that's what I want, except what I'm going to do really fast is bring this over here. Okay. This is what I want. So now the question is going to be, will I be able to see? Okay. Apple, can I do? Nailed it. Sorry, this is me figuring things out live. Like a professional.
Right.
So good at it. Okay, share. Excellent.
So is this me?
No, this is me. This is me.
Oh, okay.
And the only thing I'm going to do is put this in like presentation mode. Except I can't. Nice. Because if I do that, then I can't. Well, let's give it a shot. We'll do this. I can't see your face. So
it might be better that way. You know, it'll feel more authentic.
Okay. I gotta like. I wish I had like a fake beard I could pull over here. It's like, okay. How many of you believe in evolution? We do, sir. We do. Anyone disagree? No, this is.
Yeah. I do, sir. Okay.
You can get out of my class after you've apologized to everyone for your rudeness and ignorance. We might let you back in.
This is so true to life. I mean,
this is so how every professor I've ever had interacts. Also, I deeply appreciate if you look at his glasses, right? These are not normal glasses. These are like weird, fancy opera monocle things.
Oh, jeez.
And he's yelling so loud it like cuts the picture. It's like cutting off his arm. If you like, okay. Okay. On second thought, perhaps I was a bit hasty. I think I will systematically tear your little beliefs to shreds in front of the entire class.
Thank you, sir.
He's crazy. Sit down. What makes you think evolution is untrue?
Well, because the Bible says that each kind...
Hold it, you fanatic! Ha ha ha!
We're doing this very well.
I'm entertained. I'm proud. Okay. I could have you jailed for that. Asterisk. It's never been against the law to teach the Bible or creation in public schools. So this is actually a lie I just wrote.
Oh my God, it does. It cites him. Dr. Dino. Oh my God.
How dare you even mention the word Bible in this school? You know it's unscientific. I don't know the emphasis for 2 question marks.
I think you pulled it off.
If you talk to me, it will only be in scientific terms. Do you understand? Young man, stole my lines. Young man, the evidence is overwhelming. All the schools teach it. It's accepted everywhere. DNA proves it. Science proves it, which is somehow not also DNA. Carbon-14 proves it. Facts, facts, facts. Huxley, Gaylord, Simpson, Darwin, even in National Geographic, that prestigious academic journal, and Time magazine know it.
Sir?
Are there not? Oh, sorry. Nope, this is you. I got excited.
Yeah. So, are there not 6 basic concepts of evolution? Okay.
So no, this is Maddie speaking. These are only terms that exist in young Earth creation. So this is not real. The only thing, it's just that like macro and micro evolution there at the bottom of the list, except those 2 are the same thing.
Yes. Life from rocks. I like number 4. That's good.
Life from rocks.
Surprised that doesn't say like soup to, what do they say?
Oh.
Soup to human or something?
Oh, no, wait.
Ponds come to people.
Ponds come to people.
Sorry.
I also like from goo to the zoo to me and you.
Priceless.
Priceless. But and this woefully underprepared professor says, yes, cosmic evolution, chemical evolution, evolution of stars and planets from gas, organic evolution, macroevolution, microevolution, which is listed on the whiteboard right there as change within kinds.
No, I think that's precisely what it is.
Change within kinds. Okay, next panel.
Yeah, so only the last one has been observed and can be called science. Okay, and it's not really evolution. It's a variation within the kind. Okay.
He's got a point there. I don't like your attitude. Let's discuss prehistoric man. Why?
It's a good thing.
Here's the first and most famous clue to early man, the Neanderthal skull cap. The, as if we have exactly one Neanderthal skeleton. I also deeply appreciate the little monkey in the bottom right-hand corner.
What's he doing? He's doing a jig of some sort.
He's doing a jig, and why are his hands so, like, floppy? Modern dating methods show man to be older than Darwin could have imagined. And then we just have Charles Darwin. Present. Thanks, buddy. Lucy, the oldest known ancestor of humans, is 2.9 million years old.
Yeah, only 2.9 million. Okay, so Richard Leakey found a normal human skull under a layer of rock dated at 212 million years. I'm sorry, sir. I have a PhD. But most experts now agree that Lucy was only an unusual chimpanzee, not a missing link. Okay.
Will you sit down?
Oh, yes, sir.
We have this stat here of that Lucy was only an unusual chimpanzee, not a missing link. For details, our source here is watch video seminar part 7 by Dr. Kento.
Dr. Dino.
By Dr. Dino. I'm assuming everybody here knows that Lucy is by far not our only example of, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to say it right. I'm so sorry, Erica from Guts and Gibbon. I'm not even going to try, but that species. I don't speak Latin. I only speak English, and that poorly. Australopithecus afarensis. Is that the?
That sounds right.
Maybe.
Australopithecus.
I can't spell it. I can barely say it.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. I'm assuming everybody knows that this is nonsense. The scientist in me feels the need to point out all of the flaws.
But look at the nice part in the kid's hair. I mean, he's got to be right.
He has to be right. Look, he's fresh-faced. He's clean-shaven. That hair isn't touching his ears.
Yeah, I think this is I'm converted.
Right.
So.
He referred to the professor as sir, right?
Yeah.
He's being very polite.
Yeah.
Pieced together by fragmentary fossil evidence, science can show the stages of man's long march from ape-like ancestors to sapiens, with wonderful names like Proconsul Australopithecus afarensis to Homo habilis to Homo erectus, and on to modern man. Sir!
Oh, wait. Oh, is that?
Sir, this is a different person, I think.
Oh, I see.
Sir, I have in my possession a similar chart showing some amazing findings which are rarely made public. May I show it? Because I just carry my chart of progress around.
That's what kids do.
That's what kids do. That's what the cool kids do. I mean, don't you want to be cool, John? This should be interesting. Yes, let's see it. Science always has the answers. They just drew a chimpanzee for Lucy.
What? It's a cartoon character.
It's a cartoon character. And also they're talking about all of these different species as though you only have one, like Nebraska man, scientifically built up from one tooth, right? No, that's as if we only have one tooth for a whole species. That's not real life. But we should see part 2 of the creation seminar series.
We definitely should. Yeah,
we should definitely do that. Absolutely. And here we go. Here's the other things. But we get a Bible verse. We get a Bible verse here. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools because
come on, you skipped over this genius.
I know. This genius thinks we came from a monkey. We are. We're apes.
I've only ever seen dogs produce you can't have a dog produce a non-dog, okay?
I think that depends on whether you think a chihuahua is a dog. That's a really bad joke. I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, he's killing me. I've got to play it cool. All of these layers of the earth are millions of years different in age. We can tell the age of these layers from the fossils they contain.
But sir, how do you date the fossils?
That's a good question. We can tell the age of the fossils since we know the age of the layer of rock where they were found, which we date with radiometric dating.
Sir, isn't that circular reasoning?
You again.
How can you say the layers are different ages? Petrified trees are often found going through many of the layers. Okay, some are even upside down, running through millions of years worth of rock.
You can see pictures on drdino.com.
Yeah, or any other creationist websites that you Google.
Yeah. Well, here's proof of evolution. Human embryos have gill slits, proving man evolved through the fish stage millions of years ago, which is not true, of course.
Sir, Ernest Haeckel made up those drawings in 1869, and they were proven to be wrong in 1874. Those folds of skin are not gills, okay? They're all water and otters. They grow into bones in the ear and glands in the throat, okay?
I hate him, I think to myself menacingly. Wow, wrong for 125 years, and it's still in our book.
Bum, bum, bum.
Gulp. He's destroyed me. Vestigial organs like the human tailbone prove we evolved from animals with tails.
Sir, there are 9 muscles that attach to the tailbone. It is not vestigial, okay?
Whales have a vestigial pelvis. This proves that they evolved from a land-dwelling creature.
Yes, sir, but we know that the whale has a 15-foot penis, okay? You pervert. I'm sorry, sir, but those bones serve as anchor points for muscles. Without them, whales cannot reproduce. They have nothing to do with walking on land. And even if they were vestigial organs, isn't losing something the opposite of evolution? Okay.
Oh, this is, yeah.
Sir, what is the binding force of the atom?
It's gluons. Gotcha.
Wrong, sir. It's Jesus. I'm sorry. Gluons are a made-up dream. No one has ever seen or even measured them. They don't exist. It's a desperate theory to explain away truth. Okay. We know that the electrons of the atom whirl around the nucleus billions of times every millionth of a second. Okay. And the nucleus of the atom consists of particles called neutrons and protons. Neutrons have no electrical charge, but are therefore neutral, but protons have positive charges. One law of electricity is the second law of thermodynamics. Like charges repel each other. Since all the protons in the nucleus are positively charged, they should repel each other and scatter into space. But if gluons aren't the answer, what is?
I don't know. He says as he
I'm sorry, sir.
on his opera glasses.
But I can't hear you.
I said I don't know. You tell me.
Well, it's Jesus. Sir. Is he really? Oh my God. Well, that's totally unexpected. Sir, may I quote from the Bible?
Yes.
It says that Christ, the Creator, and I quote, to quote my good friend Matt Powell, and I quote, is before all things, and by him all things consist, which, because I know the Greek, means are held together. Also it says, and I quote, all things were made by him, Christ, and without him was not anything made that was made. Okay.
Are you saying he is the creator?
Yes. He, and I quote, he, Christ, was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. That's John 1:10. Okay.
I'm going to sadly carry out my Planet of the Apes poster, I think. They'll understand why I'm quitting. They're intelligent, logical, compassionate scholars. Everything will be all right. I'll simply tell them I can't teach it any longer. I'm sorry, gentlemen. No lady professors here. I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I can no longer teach evolution. It can't possibly be true. What? Are you crazy? Get out of our university! After you apologize to everyone for your rudeness and ignorance, we might let you back in.
Oh, wow. That was some beautiful literary interconnections there.
We're done with that because this is just the preaching bit. We just got to the preaching bit.
This is the best part.
There's like a prayer written in the last
a
panel.
part, you know.
Yeah. I feel bad for your throat with those last 3 panels that were all your lines.
That was good.
That made me happy. Thank you so much for doing that with me. I was hoping you'd be game.
So you should just clip that section of this video and repost it.
Right. I probably might.
Put some music behind it, really dramatic.
Yeah. This was what was the problem with the nuclear strong force? If you were wondering what it is that holds, so what holds protons together in the nucleus, right?
It is the Daleks.
It's both the Daleks, and then it's Jesus, and then it's the nuclear strong force. And what holds the electrons in orbit is the nuclear weak force.
Oh, that's just science mumbo jumbo.
Neither was Josh. Sorry, I was looking back through the chat to see if there were any questions. I think everyone really liked our acting.
Oh yeah.
So I feel good about that. Yay. Yep. Yeah. Wonderful names. You've converted this fine. Is it bad that my gut instinct is to say fine young cannibal, like this fine young cannibal to that's a band, right? I'm not insane. Here's the phonetic spelling. Australopithecus afarensis. I was close.
Nice.
I was close. Thank you, Tesla. Yep, a lot of people. Hey, I wish there was a super chat too. I have the right sub count for monetization. I don't have the watch hours, so I'm going to be trying to do some like longer streams to try to get watch hours. Nice. And then hopefully I can get monetized. I've got like so many plans after like getting myself faster internet so that I can stream from my office instead of the dining room table.
Right.
Yeah, so that's big goals for monetization.
If people don't know, Ailey's fake name just put a comment in there. If you want to go to Skylar's channel, you can hear the weather outside is frightful. Yeah, but the fire is so delightful. Okay. Now, since there's no place to go.
There is actually a link to Skylar and Digital Hammurabi in the description.
Oh, cool.
Because again, for those that came in a little late, Skylar was supposed to co-host tonight, but he had a family thing he had to deal with. And I'm so good at live streaming. That was the end of my plans. That's all I don't know what to do.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. And we're casting the Kent Hovind biopic now, which I'm excited about. I feel like it really, Kent Hovind biopic, just hear me out. Kent Hovind biopic, crossover with tract. So yeah, hi Broccoli Man. We're friends. You didn't know it. I had a lot of views on the video of the making of the quilt. That made me happy because I was like, this is not about science, but I filmed all of it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, so that was very fun. I learned a lot about my editing skills are kind of improving. It's a skill I've learned from doing YouTube for a couple of years now. That was very, we got a very wholesome. This is just waiting for that Pureflix contract for that family-friendly content.
As long as we're, leading souls to Christ, that's.
Well, specifically Raptor Jesus, though.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Right.
Or Duff Man.
Well, if you were wondering what Kent Hovind was doing here, and then you saw Dr. Josh, I actually, James from Modern Day Debate reached out a couple days ago. He has, in theory, set up a debate for me with Kent Hovind on the 12th. So, virtual high five on that. I'm going to try to get us to talk about. I'm going to try to get us to talk about
that tract.
That tract specifically. No, the chemical evolution. Like, how do you get? Can you have elements larger than hydrogen, like without divine intervention? Fun fact: yes, that's what stars do. They're very good at it. So, because that's also something he often talks about. And I have found. Thanks for the warning. You know, I do use my like real name on here. People know where I go to school, right? Like if you really wanted to find me, it wouldn't be too difficult. So I'm not super worried about doxing.
That was something that made me nervous about 6 months in.
Yeah.
Because people were really, really cautious about their real name getting out. It's like, well, I'm kind of screwed.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Tdlane is here. Hello, dude. Let me bring you in. Okay, that looks okay. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm kind of tired, but that chick tract was something. I want to point out something that the modern man on that looked like Gordon Freeman from Half-Life. If you seriously look at it.
Oh, okay.
It does.
Yeah.
The facial structure is there.
Gotcha. I could maybe pull it up again. The professor guy, is that?
No, the modern man in the March of Progress tract.
The modern man in the March of Progress. Okay, let me pull it up. Here we go. Here's my PowerPoint. There we go. Modern man. I love that he has glasses. Like he's got glasses and a little beer belly, like a little punch.
Yeah, it's
Gordon
a little
Freeman
bit like
retirement.
It's also, it looks a little like what's the character's name the guy's name that plays Iron Man?
Robert Downey Jr.?
Robert Downey Jr.,
Yeah.
Not Tony Stark. Robert Downey.
Right. Either one, you would know.
One of those. Love it. Sorry, I'm very distracted by the chat. Ooh, that is a good suggestion about getting a SpongeBob toy and a mallet. Again, yes. I'm hoping. Well, so what I was gonna say is like when Kent debates, it's so often things about like human evolution, where if you can just like pronounce Latin words, you kind of sound like you know what you're talking about. But I don't know, like, because I don't do biology, so I can't, like, I assume most of it's nonsense, and like I've got a gut feeling and a little like, oh, that doesn't feel quite right when he says things, but it's just not my field. You know,
I think that's probably safe.
That doesn't feel quite right. That doesn't seem true. But when he talks, but I've never heard him like really try to give an argument for like, why is stellar fusion not a good way to make iron? You know,
Maddie, I have a question. Have you watched the 3-part debate between Kent Hovind and King Crocoduck?
No, I have watched Gusset Gibbons' debate. Gosh, sorry, it's warm
You need
here.
to watch that debate because it will give you an idea of what to expect.
Yeah, that was when I debated. Oh, sorry, we're gonna get to that. There's a question for Josh in the chat. Question for Josh: what was the view on the shape of the Earth in the Old Testament, and what was the view of the people at the time? If you were unaware, Josh, I recently debated a flat earther, which is where a lot of my growth came from. So I'm very grateful to all of that.
Not
yeah, definitely.
It was Nathan Thompson, the most obnoxious man in the world.
Yeah, it's definitely flat. So a disc, you know, with a solid dome over top. So Actually, I'll have a chapter on that in volume 2 of the Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament, on ancient like cosmology. But you can read through text from the late second millennium and the first millennium, and you'll see that the different layers of heaven were made of stone, different types of stone. So a blue stone for the sky, because that's what would make sense as they look up. But the earth was a disc. It was on foundations, like so. Yeah, the idea that the idea that they understood the earth to be some type of a spherical shape is just sort of silly. They thought it was flat with a dome over top. I mean, if you read through the flood account, one of the sources talks about the sluice gates of heaven opening up and letting the water that's above above the dome, the rakia, come back down, and the water of the great deep was able to come back up. So yeah, hope that answered the question.
I think that answered the question. One of these days, Josh, I have so many questions about Babylonian math I want to ask you. Not to throw you on the spot, but so ancient Babylonians were very, very cool because they were one of the very few cultures that developed the concept of a zero, right? Independently developed. So it was like them and the Mayans, and that might be it, right? Everybody else like borrowed it. And so mathematically, like the idea of mathematically representing nothing but as a number, right, is actually a pretty big like development for math stuff, which I think is super cool. But what actually blows my mind is that Babylonians had really advanced trigonometry before they had the concept of a zero. Like 1,000 years before they had the concept of a zero.
Oh, wow.
And that to me is so cool. Sorry, we were talking about like, so in my mind, if you have really advanced trigonometry, and that has to do with it, they have base 60 counting system. And so you get rational numbers. You get more rational numbers because you can make more, you can divide by more numbers and get an even thing when you start with, you can divide by 60 things instead of 10 things, right? Sorry, but I was thinking about, because if you have pretty advanced trigonometry, in theory, you could do a lot of like tracing stars and stuff. Like, so you could maybe have a better concept of like shape of the earth and things like that. But I don't know, like if you're not like a ocean going people, you maybe aren't super motivated to be able to navigate by the stars. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, like we have, so trying to think of some things that I could point to. Like we have the very famous Babylonian map of the world. Mm-hmm. Actually, my old professor just wrote an article on that maybe 2 years ago. But like we have a video where Dr. Gina Konstantopoulos came on our channel and talked about, sort of the ancient Near Eastern view of cosmology. So there's a book out by, Josh, it's by, I'm blanking on his name.
It's okay. I just made you do the Kent Hovind voice for like half an hour.
That's it. It's seeping in now. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Hurwitz is his name, but it's an Eisenbrauns publication in the Mesopotamian Civilization series, but it's called I think it's just called Mesopotamian Cosmic Geography. So
very cool. Yeah, I might want to read that. So far, my favorite thing about YouTube is like all of the I love the reason I love your channel and a lot of other channels is because there's a lot of biology channels, and I get to go learn about things that I have no background knowledge in whatsoever, and I think it's very fun. That's I really find ancient systems of math interesting, says the math nerd in the room.
I think we have a video. Like this is certainly in no way even close to something I have any kind of expertise in, even though it's ancient Near Eastern. But
Like,
there
tell me
is
about their trigonomic system, Josh. Tell me about their concept of circles and if they understood irrational numbers. Like,
yeah, somebody asked me the other day, like, did they have geometry? Probably.
that I know they did have geometry, because they, because that's we measure a circle as 360 degrees because of the Babylonians, right? That's leftover.
Dan Stern Cardinal is asking to get in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Megan just stuck her head in the door and said, they did have geometry.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah, she's the smart one.
Sweet. Creation Myths is here. So I'm going to do add to stream. Look at me being a YouTuber. Hello, Dan.
Hello.
Okay. Josh, do you know everybody else here?
I don't.
I walk in weird YouTube circle.
You know, we should probably introduce ourselves. Dan, do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dan. I'm an evolutionary biologist. My channel is Creation Myths, and I basically I take like creation science genetics and like pretend it's serious and like let's evaluate this like on its merits, very specific. Like I actually like we'll do math and we'll like let's see if this actually works in terms of like how population genetics works. I bet you all can guess how well it works.
Very. Yeah. I mean, according to that tract was, it works very well. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. It never works. It never works. It's bad. It's really bad. That's what I do.
I'm a geology student. Blech.
We like student. I'm a student. We like students here.
I'm mostly in the background, but I occasionally pop up in Dapper Dino's channel to just join him for a stream. So, fun stuff.
Cool.
Dapper Dino is another ex-Navy nuke here on YouTube. So okay. We're ganging up against the Air Force vet a little bit.
That's okay. I mean, you guys have to have some sort of a fighting chance. Probably
because you guys, I don't know. I think we can probably outrun you with your like chocolate fountains in the mess. Those are the rumors I was told. All right, look, the story that just puts this just all to bed, and what I mean by that is confirms what you're saying. Right.
Is when I was in officer training, I remember we did our field exercise and drove out, and I noticed that all the tents were already built. And
the Army does that for you?
No Air Force enlisted people. They came out there and built them for us, right? And I remember walking into our tent, and I turned around and I walked back out and said, "Sergeant, I can't stay in there." And he said, "I'm sorry, sir. What's wrong?" And I said, "One of the air conditioners is broken."
Oh my God!
I'm not lying.
Okay, I'm gonna tell my sister's story. My sister is currently active duty Navy. She's a pediatrician, actually. Navy paid for med school. I mean, if the Navy pays for med school, then after you finish med school in your intern year, but before you do your residency, sometimes they're like, cool. You're a doctor now. You can go be the general medical officer for this Marine battalion in Japan. She's like, sure. So she's been, and this is also the best because this was before 2016 when all billets had to open to women. So this was the Marines' genius of, we need more women in artillery units. We don't let women in artillery units. I know what we'll do. We'll make the medical officer female. And that's the story of how my sister got sent to Okinawa. So she she was attached to an artillery unit. It was her and 5,000 Marines.
Wow.
And she would go she was in there for 2 years, and about half that time was spent doing like training exercises. So they went to the Philippines, they went to Korea, they went to all these different places. And so she'd be living in a tent with 5,000 guys for a month. Wow. And she would so often, especially when they would go to like northern Japan where it was really cold, she would just sleep in her medical tent because the medical tent was the only tent for the 5,000 people that was climate controlled.
Oh, wow.
So to compare that to your
Yeah, I mean, the next morning that that we were out there for one night, played a game,
roughing it,
with our guns.
Yeah.
But the next morning it was drizzling lightly, and we were supposed to run this obstacle course, and they canceled it, because it was drizzling. They want us to get hurt. So
I will say the coolest thing I got to do in officer training, and I went to what the Navy refers to as Camp Cupcake, right? So it's officer training for doctors, nurses, chaplains, JAGs, and physics teachers.
That's what mine was. Yeah.
Right, physics teachers. But we got to do, it's called Save the Buttercup. So they have like 2 or 3 compartments of a ship built, and they float in a swimming pool, right? And there's a leak that you have to solve. So this is the compartment is sinking in the pool. So you're running around in like chest deep water, and you have to save the buttercup by because if you're on a ship, you got to know how to make the water be where it's supposed to. So I got to do that. I got to save the buttercup, and I got to don full firefighter gear and fight a fire.
Oh wow,
that was very fun.
I mean, last one I'll tell, and I probably have to sneak out. Probably have to sneak out of here in a minute, but
totally.
But I remember. So I went. I was an enlisted guy for 6 years. So I went to regular basic training. Well, I went to officer basic training. I remember the first morning I woke up, and there was a knock at the door, and I went and opened the door, and it's a cleaning woman. I'm in basic training, and I said yes, and she said, "I'm here to clean your room."
What is the Air Force?
What?
What
okay.
is this?
No wonder everybody wants to go to the Air Force.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's how we roll.
One of these days, Josh, I think we should do a proper Navy versus Air Force debate and do it for charity or something. I think that would be
so. I mean,
fun.
you're into just losing publicly. That's what you're.
I don't know. I mean,
well, you should
do
fair. Get
Air Force officers
going.
bruise so easily. We can't mess with your delicate sensibility.
That's right. Gotta be careful. Careful.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it was lovely to meet you both, and Maddie, thank you so much for having me on.
Josh, before you go, I want to run some logic by you.
Okay.
And now stay with me, because I think this is some very difficult logic. Because I got this from somebody. Josephus is unreliable as a source because he fought Hercules as a person. I don't understand it.
I mean, Josephus obviously is later than my expertise, but I mean, Josephus has a interesting way of doing history. Sort of the further you go back in time, the less we rely on him. But yeah, I mean, they just did historiography differently than we do today.
Yeah, but I say that because I got that as a reason why Josephus wasn't an accurate source on the 1st century.
Well, that's silly.
Yeah,
it's silly.
It was just
Yeah.
Person was a mythicist too, so that's fun.
I mean, this is this sort of stuff that I'll go, but this sort of stuff with Josephus, what I find often is it's all or nothing with these people like Josephus. So people want to say, for example, I was having a discussion with S.J. Thomason one time, and I S.J. and I get along really well now, but we were talking about the dating of the book of Daniel, and she said, well, Josephus has Alexander the Great going to Jerusalem and meeting with the high priest, and the high priest shows him the book of Daniel. Well, that it can't be a 2nd century book then, because Alexander the Great would have seen it in the late 4th century. And I said, yeah, I mean, it's not really a reliable story that Josephus is telling there. But then later I said, well, I mean, Josephus says X, and of course I was talking about something from the 1st century. And she said, well, you just pick and choose, and it's like, well, I mean, sort of, I guess. Like there's some things that he's reliable on, and there's some things that he isn't. And that's just the Old Testament's that way. So yeah, it's what makes it so fun.
You have to be cautious with your ancient historians, and also not say that fabulist should have recorded somebody, and a fabulist should have been an accurate historical source, because that's not quite right.
Yeah. I mean, just because Naram Sin and the texts around him say that he was made a god, because he fought 9 battles in 1 year, doesn't mean that everything that we see historically about Naram Sin didn't happen. So no, I agree.
There. Guys, I like the in-depth answer. Have a good night, dude.
All right, you guys take care. And congratulations, Maddie, on 1,000. It's awesome.
Thank you. I'll see you later.
Right, have a good night.
For the dramatic Kent reading, I was crack. I never heard that before. Your Kent impression. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it. Anything I can do. Night, guys.
Night. Josh is good, people. He was I really didn't tell him I was going to try to get him to do that before the stream.
That was.
Chick tracks are great. They're just hilarious.
And I really think that's the exact right approach. And it's funny for me to say this because this is the opposite of what I do.
Yeah.
But that is the exact right approach to young Earth creationism is Saturday night. It's Saturday, right? Saturday night, like, let's laugh about this. That is
I got a beer. Look, I got worked up on Wednesday. I got really worked up on my live stream on Wednesday. And it's a dumb thing, but I realized something very specific that Dr. Snelling had, like, in my opinion, outright lied about, right?
Yeah.
Right? The like, oh, we found radiocarbon in coal, right? And when he first said that, I just took him at his word, right? Because I'm like, well, how would you get that in there? And then I looked into, like, the methodology for measuring radiocarbon, because, like, I know the basic process and how, like, the science works, but I never thought about the, like, engineering of like, well, okay, I assumed he meant they took a coal sample, put it through a mass spec, right, and, like, found carbon.
Yeah.
Not what they did. So I got really mad.
Please read the methods. Tip for everybody watching. Anytime you read any creationist claim about anything, read the methods section as carefully as you can.
Yeah. So and the problem there, is methodology sections of papers are always the most boring and the most technical and take the most time. So it is, if you're trying to be nefarious, a great place to sneak in some little lies.
I mean, we know the secondary source parasites that will cite those papers, and then the people that will cite them, and then the people after that. Oh, hi, Dapper. Will check the methods section because they can't read it. They don't have the attention span to do that.
Who cares about the methods section? It's just like, maybe the most important part of the paper.
Yeah.
Also, I've got a meme.
Oh, a meme.
You've got a meme. Yeah. Okay. This button. Nailed it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I can't believe there's 30 people watching right now. Thank you guys so much. That's wonderful. I really appreciate it.
And if you're watching but you haven't hit like yet, go ahead and do that. It's important.
Or that one person that hit dislike, apparently. I'm still at the point where I, like, take every dislike personally because I've only had, like, 5 ever.
Look, here's the thing. Dislikes count as engagement the exact same way that likes do. As far as YouTube is concerned, it doesn't matter. So you know what? Get as many dislikes as you want.
Yeah, it legitimately doesn't matter.
Yep. So
Thanks,
there's funny thing talking about Snelling and the geology and, like, wait a minute, I'm being lied to here because I was listening to you go through that on Wednesday and I realized that the way you felt about that is the way that I feel literally every time I read something about genetics written by creationists. It's exactly that same feeling of, like, no, they didn't. No, really?
Yeah.
And
I had that same feeling
of the credentialed geneticists Jeanson, Carter, Sanford, any of them, same thing.
And I felt that same way just yesterday, reading about a sort on creation.com about birds, and I was just like, are you kidding me right now? And it's like, oh, hey, look at this 1995 description by some bandit who was being also based on a bad photograph that hadn't actually had its initial description published. I'm like, yeah, that's not exactly the greatest source there. Yeah.
No.
And then, of course, he's writing in 2015. Any hint of the fact that the 2001 paper that the same author who did the initial description about, and it went back on the claims he's making about the fossil? No indication about that at all.
Yeah.
It's just like, either you don't know what you're talking about or you're lying. And either way, you shouldn't be right. So please stop.
I guess for me, it was such a it's one thing if like this is a genuinely held belief that you have, right? And you don't have a proper like science education. And so you're spreading or retelling things that were taught to you by people you trust, right? Right. So that's kind of like, that's one thing. There's not any inherent, to me, there's not inherent dishonesty there. There's like,
right, you're just misinformed.
There's like having bad information, but like that feels like we can have an honest conversation, right? And in fact, back when I was in the Navy, I had so many lovely coffee chats with our chaplain, who was this old man. He was so old. And he had questions about geology for me because I apparently he was a young Earth creationist. But he was like, I thought it worked like this. And I was like, oh, no, it's like that. And he was very receptive to receiving good information. And previously, that's been like all my conversations with young Earth creationists.
Yeah, see, his job didn't depend on staying a young Earth creationist. If he was like, nah, the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, maybe not gonna be like, well, I guess you're out of the chaplaincy. They don't care.
Yeah, and he was like he was a 05, so he was a commander in the Navy, and like which getting to commander as a chaplain is very hard, right?
Yeah,
that's not a lot.
You got to stay. You basically just have to keep staying in, and like, oh my goodness, yeah, because like there aren't that many commander billets open for chaplains.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of funny if you are a chaplain of a like smaller faith. So like, if you are, there's like, this is a flavor of Christianity, but even if you're like, there's like 5 Eastern Orthodox chaplains. I happened to know one of them because I went to officer training with one of them, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to get stationed at boot camp because they don't let the boot camp kids leave for church, right? So they provide all religious services on site, or deployed to the Middle East and Turkey to provide services for our like allies, because other nations don't always have a chaplain corps."
Yeah, good. If you're even in, and the thing is, it's not even a small sect of Christianity. It's just small in the United States.
Right. Sorry.
Worldwide, it's like the second biggest sect. It's just like there's no Americans. Well, not no, but very few Americans are Eastern Orthodox.
Yeah.
So, like,
so what I mean is, if you're talking to a chaplain in the Navy, chances are they're evangelical Christian.
Yeah.
Next is Catholic, right? And then it falls apart. Then it breaks down from there. But there are specifically like Jewish chaplains and Hindu and Wicca, and they even have atheist chaplain billets in the Navy land.
What do they do?
So they provide the same kind of support and guidance that chaplains normally do. It's just that they do it for either atheists or people who don't feel comfortable going to one of the specifically religiously aligned chaplains. So they'll basically chaplains, in addition to performing, religious services, which is usually a once a week thing for them, their main job is actually doing stuff like marriage counseling or performing various things like weddings or giving counseling when, say, there isn't the psychologist there, because they usually also have like classes and stuff and counseling given as part of seminary training and stuff. So they're sort of like the basically a lot of the stuff that regular priests or pastors would do normally when they're not either doing their whatever liturgical thing or preparing for it, which is a lot of just like tending to people's emotional well-being.
So like the other great thing that is with a chaplain is that the only person in charge of them is the CO. So if like you're a little nothing right out of boot camp and maybe you're experiencing like harassment of some sort, right? Like an EO complaint or something like that. Sorry, equal opportunity. I'm jumping back to Navy acronyms. So maybe like, maybe you're dealing with something and like it's coming from your chain of command and you don't know what to do. Like chaplain is always safe, right? Mm-hmm. So that's always a resource. I don't know. We had a couple of shitty chaplains that got fired. We had one really shitty chaplain that got fired. But
damn.
His replacement was great. And he would like, he was the A school chaplain, and he would like intentionally stay through all the like required study hours and just go to the different A school classrooms and be like, you guys are doing great. I'm here hanging out with you. Everything's going to be okay.
Now, see, the people on the carriers, they're lucky because they have both a Protestant and a Catholic chaplain most of the time. Yeah, except also the Catholic chaplain is usually the only Catholic priest for the entire strike group. So gotcha. He ends up visiting every other ship in the strike group about once a month. He gets helicoptered over and he'll say like a mass for like, this is your April mass, guys. Come get communion if you want it. And then he'll get helicoptered back to the aircraft carrier. Because the thing is, the aircraft carrier has like half of the personnel in the entire carrier strike group anyway. Yeah. So, and then we did actually have a Jewish chaplain for like 3 months or something. They were there doing some kind of like training or something. Like they were being basically they were training with one of the senior chaplains, but while they were there, they did have some Sabbath services, and some of the, Jewish sailors did go to them. They were like, "Hey, we got the chaplain here. We might as well go for it."
Yeah. Sorry, Dino and I can get talking Navy nuke stuff really quickly.
All good.
Yeah.
But yeah, a boot camp is the only place where you're going to consistently find a chaplain who's neither Protestant nor Catholic.
Fair. Yeah.
One of the few places.
By the way, if you this might sound like terrible advice, but if you can stand it, even if you're not religious, if you're in boot camp or at like officer training, I strongly recommend going to church.
Absolutely.
They give you coffee and cookies, and your drill sergeant doesn't know. Yep. You're allowed to have it.
And no one who really cares about all the stupid boot camp rules that are just made up to make it kind of suck is there really. Yep. Because it's basically just recruits and the chaplains. And the chaplains do not care about whether or not you're always talking while standing at attention or making you go into a format. Like they don't care.
Chaplains are worried about how stressed you are and would love to give you an Oreo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Heck, there was one week I went Friday evening to a Sabbath service just because I was like, you know what? I could just go and no one's going to ask questions about this. So I found one of the recruits who was Jewish and he was a friend of mine. I was like, dude, I'm going with you this week. He's like, yeah. He's like, how's your Hebrew reading? I'm like, give me your prayer book. So I read the first prayer. He's like, all right, yeah, you're good. Let's go. I'm like, yep, there you go. He's like, wait, why are you better at this than me? And I'm like, I don't know. I just know things. What do you want from me?
That's my goal in life, is to be, oh crap, what's his name from Game of Thrones, who drinks and know things?
Tyrion Lannister?
Tyrion Lannister. That's all I want to do. I just want to drink and know things.
Yeah, when he said that line, I was like, gee, he's me. That's what I do.
I saw a great meme, was that like, so Tyrion's a warrant officer.
Oh, warrant officers. This is like the weirdest thing in the entire world. Dan probably has no idea what a warrant officer is. Warrant officers are this weird thing where like they'll take an enlisted person, usually a fairly, experienced enlisted person, and it's like, well, we don't really want to make you an officer, but we want to put you in an officer billet. So we'll make you this thing called a warrant officer, and you're kind of between the officers and the enlisted. All the enlisted people have to salute you and call you sir and whatnot, but you're still ranked lower than an O1. Right. So it's like the consolation prize for we need an officer in a billet, but we don't have one, and you're not good enough to be one.
If I can draw an analogy, it's the adjunct faculty of officers.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
All the faculty is a little scared of them.
Right, because they also have way more experience than any of the JOs do.
Mm-hmm.
Usually by a decade at least.
So that is often the case. Yes, that works.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
That works.
yeah, because it's like, there's some. Well, to be fair though, a lot of the JOs were intimidated by some of like the E4s in reactor department, because it was like, I've been here for a year. You just got out of school. I know how all of this works. You don't know anything about this. Please don't pretend that you do.
Yeah.
The more I hear about it, the more I think, gee, the Navy doesn't have a class system at all.
Oh no, the military
is a class system. It's
you gotta realize
specifically designed to have one.
The officer-soldier distinction has been a way of enforcing like society's class system on the military since professional militaries existed, right?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like some dude from the farm was going to end up as your general in most circumstances. It was going to be some nobleman's kid, no matter whether or not he was good at it.
Right.
He was nobility.
You could buy an officer. You could buy an officer thing. That was actually
Commission.
off topic. Sorry, but there's a really good book, really fun book about ancient Rome and the decline of the Roman Republic in the lead up to the civil wars that led to Augustus becoming the first emperor. It's by Mike Duncan, who does the Revolutions podcast, and he did the History of Rome podcast. But in the centuries leading up to the so this is a generation before Julius Caesar. In the centuries leading up to those civil wars, there was, I don't remember any of the names, but there was one guy who was just like, you know what? You don't have to be rich to be in the army anymore. I'm going to take everybody. And then for like 20 years, he just stomped everyone because he had the biggest army, because everybody could be in his army. And like, he didn't care. Like, you had to be early in the Roman Republic. You had to, like, you could not serve in the military unless you were a certain rank. And there were like the formal ranks in society, like the equestrians were called that because they were the people rich enough to bring a horse when they went into the army. So they were the cavalry, because they were rich, right? But then this one guy was just like, well, we just got our butts kicked by Hannibal for however many years. I'm going to let anybody into the army because otherwise I'm not going to have an army. And then he had the biggest army.
Turns out that peasants are perfectly capable of carrying a spear or a gladius. What do you know?
Yay, peasants.
And he undid that distinction for a generation between like the rich and everybody else. And he was like, I don't care. Everyone, do whatever. And then he had the best army.
Of course, then there comes the problem with where your retirement package always includes land, and you start to run out.
That was also one of the big problems. So you would really like this book because the opening chapter is actually about land reforms in the Italian peninsula.
Oh.
It sounds really dry to everybody. I swear it's not, and it ends with a murder on the floor of the Senate.
Yeah, it's not dry if you're a member of some long-standing family who's had some latifundia that you've been mismanaging for 5 generations, but it's yours anyway.
But
So
it's not actually yours, technically.
Well, and of course, it also gets very violent if you're some soldier who's like, I would like a piece of land, please, as promised by the Roman state. You owe it to me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing on both sides that tends to breed some significant hostility. It's actually, like land reform always sounds really...
It's called The Storm Before the Storm. I should say that. It's called The Storm Before the Storm.
Okay.
Very good book. And the parallels to modern American politics, where it's like a lot of what was going on in the Roman Republic was based on norms instead of formal rules. And then turns out you could just like violate the norms and nobody could tell you not to. And then you could kind of, take more disproportionate power until someone reciprocated. So that's a fun.
Wait, are you saying that maybe for like quite a while now, a certain branch of the government and the federal government might have been accruing to itself powers that normatively belonged to other branches of the government, and that maybe that should be codified?
Yes.
Whoa.
Exactly what I'm saying, yes.
Maybe the United States should go back to declaring war in order to actually deploy troops to foreign shores in cases where they weren't attacked.
Yeah, I wonder.
Not to make it political, but yes, that's kind of the subtext. But it's also legislative, so it draws a lot of parallels to things like filibuster and that kind of stuff. It's fun.
I'm a big fan of the old-fashioned filibuster. If you want to filibuster, I think you should have to get up with like a phone book or a Bible or something and just start reading. I don't like these procedural filibusters. Procedural filibusters, no, I have no time for that. Go get a big old book and read it, or just get out of here.
No, Dapper, we need to go even older school than that. You need to get up and challenge the other congressman or woman to a duel. That's how a filibuster should work.
That's not a filibuster. That's a duel. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Well, here's a book for you on that. There's a really I'm not done with this book. About halfway through this book. It's called Field of Blood, and it's about the escalation of violence in Congress in the lead up to the Civil War, because basically for a generation, the Southern members of Congress used the threat of violence literally against other members of Congress to prevent anti-slavery legislation from coming to the floor for a vote. And what started happening in the decade or so in the lead up to the Civil War in the 1850s is the Northerners stopped taking their crap. So like there was a case where a guy from, I think, Massachusetts, his constituents sent him a gun and was like, here, you can carry this on the floor and stop being a wimp. And there was a moment where a Northern radical abolitionist who, the term radical gets attached to the radical Republicans who are the abolitionists, and it's very deliberately attached to them to make them out to the bad guys. But just to be clear, historically, the radical Republicans were good guys in this story. They were the abolitionists. And so there was a radical Republican who said some anti-slavery thing on the floor, and a Southerner stood up, a Democrat from the South, stood up and said, "Are you saying whatever about Southern whatever?" And as he did so, he pulled his coat back, revealing a gun in his waistband. And the Northerner said, "Yes, I am," and pulled out his own gun. So now you had these two guys pointing guns at each other, literally on the floor of the House of Representatives, and multiple other members of the House of Representatives pulled their own guns on the Southerner, who pointed his gun at the guy who had command of the floor at the time. So now you had a standoff with everyone pointing guns at each other on the floor of the House of Representatives. I think it was the House. And this was at some point in the 1850s in the lead up to the Civil War. So yeah, that's a fun book too, about legislative norms.
Terrifying. So to anybody watching, I linked Dan and Dapper's channels in the side chat. I will edit the description after we're done with this and add them then, because I don't know how to do it live.
I can tell you how, but don't worry about it. I'll tell you how afterwards.
I've figured out so many things on screen live that I think I don't need to figure out another one tonight.
Yeah, no, it's fine. There's a way to do it. I can tell you later.
Okay. So to bring it back, team, in theory, I'm debating Ken Tobin about
very much in theory.
My condolences.
Yeah. Oh man.
So let me tell. Okay, I've gotten a lot of questions after my debate with Nathan Thompson. A lot of people commented
that debate was so hard to watch. I did not realize that he was such. I just watched that tonight. I did not realize Nathan Thompson was such a colossal git. Like that guy.
Yeah.
Is that your first experience watching him, Dan?
That was my first experience. Yes.
Ooh, yeah. See, I've been watching Nathan Thompson make an ass out of himself for a few years now. So I know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You didn't even see Erica's debate with him?
Nope, haven't watched that one. That was my first one, and
it's fun.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, it
was bad.
It was pretty painful. I even told, my parents are adorably supportive of everything I do, and I love them. And I told them, don't watch the debate. Really don't. It's going to make you mad. It made my husband watch it after the fact, and he was so pissed off. So I told my parents, watch the review on Fight the Flat Earth, because there at least we get some good laughs in. And that's, I kind of feel bad, because I want to give modern day debate views, because I definitely appreciate James hosting that for me. Yeah, it was pretty painful.
What it's worth, uses the same opening in every debate.
Yeah, which I think
literally the same thing.
I might have thrown him off a little bit, because I started by watching his openings and addressing his common points that he made about the atmosphere, which is my wheelhouse.
Oh, yeah. I was referring to Kent. Kent uses the same opening. I prepped for Kent by watching several of his debates, and then on different topics, I should add, from what we debated. His opening when he debated about birds and dinosaurs with Dapper was the exact same opening as when he debated me on a completely different topic. It was it is the same.
In both cases, he's going into a weird, not accurate like biography of Charles Darwin for no reason. It's like Charles Darwin hated birds and he was lazy and his dad got him. It's like, not only is this not true, it's also completely irrelevant. Why let him waste as much of his own time as he wants to? If he wants to go into realities, do it Dan and I did, which is to say, like, mention like, okay, you talked about this and this, but since it's relevant, I just won't address it. And just move on. It makes him look like a moron.
That's kind of my plan.
I should say the reason I did that is because Dapper told me to do that. And it was good advice.
It works.
A very good, by the way, if anyone if anyone listening needs is especially a woman in a male dominated field, and gets interrupted a lot, a very great communication technique in general, right? If you're in a position where that just kind of happens. I was in the nuclear Navy, right? There was me and one other woman. A very great tactic is when you get interrupted, ignore anything they say after that point and just say I wasn't done talking. And then start from where you so refuse to move forward until they'll address the point, until they stop interrupting you or address the point you were making. So I did that some with Nathan. I didn't have to say I wasn't done talking because the moderator was doing a really good job of coming in. It's no, you have to let her talk. I'm like, thank you, moderator, for doing your job. And so just refuse, that's my plan. And that's a good tactic, right? It's just, I'm going to refuse. We're going to talk about this point.
Ken's not nearly as, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Ken's not nearly as bad as Nathan with interrupting. So he will interrupt, but Kent, until he gets angry, usually has at least a facade of politeness. Mm-hmm. Once you get under his skin, that will start to drop. And if he starts implying that you are dumb or uses his line that comes down to you only believe in evolution because you're horny, if he starts doing either of those things, now he's going to start becoming less polite because he's realizing that he's not looking good anymore. It's no longer a good look for him. And so he doesn't, I think he's constitutionally incapable of taking the high road after realizing he's starting to not look good to his own audience, and just starts to get lower and lower. And if you can get him to call you a moron, then you definitely won the debate.
I also deeply enjoy using people's ingrained sexism against them, right? That's one of my favorites. Please underestimate me. Please do that. And it rarely goes well for the other party, right? So that's, I don't know, when I say, so Nathan Thompson, I have to say, so while he is not the first jerk that I've interacted with in my life, right? He was definitely one of the more intense ones, right?
Yes, I can
and if
see
that
that
had been in person, I definitely would have been a lot more uncomfortable, if that kind of makes sense.
This is the guy who was arrested for harassing school children, so yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So, what's up, T?
Yeah, that's. I was just commenting on Dapper's add-on, which is Nick Thompson, not a great person.
He's the kind of person if I encounter, I wouldn't be surprised if he initiated violence with people. He seems like the guy who might start a fight over a disagreement.
Yeah, and so maybe this is irrational or otherwise. He was getting angry, and if I'm angry in a way that if I was in person next to him and there weren't a lot of other people around, I would have been made to be a little uncomfortable, right? But that's again, that's not the first time I've been in a situation like that, and it was over Zoom, so it didn't matter. I could just leave, and
Yeah.
But it can't I the number of times I've interacted with Kent clones, you know what I mean? That's part of just where I live, right? I grew up in Oklahoma. I'm back in Oklahoma now for school. And I love my home state, but it's got some character.
Kent Hovind reproduces by mitosis.
Excellent.
It just spawns clones. It's actually weird. There are actually people online that you they're usually not very big, but you can find these channels where it's basically just someone else Kent Hovind talk. And it's why are you doing this? And they'll even tell some of the same jokes. And it's like the same thing when you're watching Eric Hovind from like maybe 10 years ago, and he was just giving the same seminars as his dad. But at least in those cases, they were open about that. Eric is going to go be like an alter Kent Hovind, so that they can double up on seminar duty. Like, I get it, it's a brand. But these are just like randos on the internet who you'll find, and they'll just be like telling the Hovind jokes exactly. And it's just like, what makes you think this is a good idea?
Yeah.
Maddie, I'm going to thank you for having us, and congratulations again on 1,000.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thanks for popping in. Guys, sub to Dan's channel.
Thank you.
Yeah, the link is somewhere in the live chat, and I'll put it in the description in a bit.
Another thing Kent will definitely do is try to drag you into almost any other topic than the one that you know about. So
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat.
Oh, sorry, no worries.
I paid attention to two things at once.
No,
what did you just say?
So another thing that Kent will do is he will try to drag the conversation onto almost anything other than the actual topic of the conversation. So, for instance, if you pin him down on, like I started to pin him down on how taxonomy works, and so he would start to go on and on about like other things that were completely irrelevant, or he would see that I'm trying to take the conversation in a particular direction to show him why, say, this group fits into this larger taxon, and then he would say, oh, well, what if we made it, and he would go in the opposite direction. And he'll also do things like he'll do the thing that RJ Downer likes to call origins or bust, where he'll just take it to as early a thing as he possibly can till he finds something that is not terribly well understood.
Gotcha.
And he'll say, so how could you have that without God? So since when he's doing evolution, if they like, oh, we have clear transitions, from this morphology in this group to this morphology in this subset of that group, he'll say, oh, and that's enough to make you believe that you are related to mosquitoes or that life could come from rocks. It's like, well,
no.
I mean, no, not really, but that wasn't the topic. Like, if it's human evolution, he'll jump straight to abiogenesis. If it's nucleosynthesis, he'll jump to the Big Bang.
Okay.
Will.
But I mean, yeah. By the way, chat's informing me that Nathan is a creep, and I'm like, yeah, I was getting those vibes.
Oh, shocker.
I was very happy I was on Zoom.
You don't say Nathan Thompson is a creep, huh? That is the most surprising thing I've heard in the last 5 seconds.
I
really appreciate the warning, chat. Like, I really genuinely appreciate you guys looking out for me. But I was definitely getting those vibes.
Oh man. So let's see. Also, you probably already know this, but Kent Hovind seems to accept fusion up to iron in main sequence stars.
Oh, okay. But he doesn't accept that like larger elements are made in supernova?
Yeah, I'm not even sure he's aware that is the mainstream explanation for nucleosynthesis of heavier elements.
If anyone was wondering, in like stars like our sun, the biggest element they can make with fusion of like helium is iron. To get anything heavier than iron is you gotta have a supernova. The end.
Yeah. So that's actually one of the few things Kent Hovind has on Matt Powell. Matt Powell doesn't understand that nuclear fusion is how the sun is powered. He thinks it's on fire and is powered by space oxygen. I was so
shocked when I heard Matt Powell refer to like the sun burning and realize he meant a combustion reaction. And I was like, honey, no. Oh,
but here's another thing. Kent Hovind does think that burning wood in a fireplace is a mass energy conversion.
Oh, honey, no.
He's incapable, apparently, of distinguishing between the release of chemical energy and from matter and mass energy conversion. Yeah.
Oof. It's painful. It's painful.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
But hey, you brought on people who've seen enough of his debates that I think I might have seen every debate that's sent on YouTube that he's been in at least once. So
you are crazy. Can I say that?
Sounds painful.
It is painful, but a lot of that was in the lead up to my debate with him, because I was like, I want this to go as well for me as possible. So the more I know about what he believes, the better it can go. And it's also good that you picked a very narrow topic, because Kent loves to debate. If up to Kent Hovind, every debate he would ever do would just be evolution versus creation. And by evolution, he doesn't mean biological evolution. He means basically the scientific consensus in every field of science, period.
Yeah. He means the 6 things listed on the chalkboard in the chick track.
Right, exactly.
By the way, I think there's some people that just jumped over here from Modern Day Debate. Hello, welcome to my live stream. Also, you should jump to the beginning because you missed Dr. Josh and I doing a dramatic reading of a chick track.
I wish I could have been here earlier for some of that. My computer was a little bit busy, and so I couldn't do anything on it. But yeah, I caught up with that, and that was really funny.
And it was a delight.
Oh, more debunk videos.
Yeah, so do more. So my current plan is to do, so like what I'm trying to do right now is like an edited explainer science education video on Sundays, and then like a live stream, or if not a live stream, then a video I pre-recorded that's effectively a live stream on Wednesdays. And those will, I think, usually be debunk videos with some other fun things thrown in when I just can't stand it anymore. Because I got so mad earlier this week.
I saw that. I watched that video. I was like, man, that's wrong.
Yeah, this week it should be actually one of the things I try to do with my channel is like interview my scientist friends to get senses of like different fields of what a different field is. And Erica was kind enough to let me pester her with questions. So it should be Erica talking about primatology and all that fun stuff. So an interview with her is what should be going up this Wednesday.
I could probably get you in touch with a vertebrate paleontologist if you want, who's a Mesozoic Archosaurus.
Hey, I'm here for it.
So far, most of his work has been on, sorry.
Before this, I just reached out to like my friends from undergrad who are like, oh, I've got like a physicist friend and a biologist friend.
Yeah.
But like biologist who studies like microbiology, you know? So just lots of different fields. I've got one of the videos on my channel is my friend who's a civil engineer, but she studies ancient Roman concrete. And she had all these pictures from when she visited Italy to study concrete.
Nice. People forget Romans used concrete extensively.
And theirs is amazing.
Yeah, they had high quality concrete for the most part. Yeah, people are just like, oh, it was all just stone. No,
hey,
not at all.
And you know what? And you know what you can thank for all that Roman concrete? Volcanic ash.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What's really, so the fact that they were able to build it so that it would set underwater, that's a very cool technology. So there's some parts of Roman concrete that is like more structurally sound than modern concrete, which is really interesting and cool.
Although to be fair, modern concrete can also set underwater.
Yes, true. I am going to misquote my friend. So if you want to learn more about that, I'm actually just going to direct people to interview with a civil engineer on my channel because Linda explains it super well and she gets so excited about Roman concrete.
Nice. That reminds me, I got excited about a chart of silver content in Roman coins through time on a history final that I took.
Nice.
Because I was like, hey, I get to talk about like macroeconomics that never makes it into ancient history courses. And so, yeah, I got an A on that because my professor was like, so I had to look into that stuff. And yeah, it turns out that all that stuff that you said was definitely stuff in economics. And I was like, yep, it sure was.
Yeah.
I was like, good job.
It's strange how much economics and history overlaps, but yet nobody fucking talks about it in either. Also, apologies.
There is it's okay. I try to keep this channel pretty like PG-13, but because I know there are some children subs. I don't think they watch my live streams. But
hopefully.
Yeah. I got to take an undergrad. I got to take a history class that was specifically history through the lens of economics. So that absolutely is a field.
Oh, nice.
It's just a very niche field.
Yeah.
It was super, super fascinating.
I think that the thing that why people tend not to look at history through that lens is people make the assumption that economics is about things like stock markets and banks and high finance, but it's just as much about how a family manages to get enough food and to get shelter and how they divide their time up. It's just as much about how the class structure of society determines things like distribution of goods and how people, cope with that. It's almost any action a human takes, if it's an action designed to fulfill a goal, is by that definition an economic action, because they're foregoing the other options they have. Therefore, they're incurring costs for performing that action. Action is maybe not rational under the normal definition, but the economic definition of rational, which is not the same as in psychology or logic, is any action is rational if it is designed to fulfill a desire on the part of the actor, whether or not it works, whether or not it could work. So for an economist, people doing a rain dance that we know statistically isn't actually going to improve the chance of rain, it's still a rational action because they think it will. And that's all that matters to the economist is, does this person think it will accomplish the goal? If so, they are acting rationally. And so when you look at it under that lens, everything that humans do ultimately comes down to economics if they do it consciously.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to look at the world through in terms of history. But yeah, not too many people tend to do it. It's people like...
If I may.
Yeah, what's up?
If I may. There's also an oddly large amount of economic principles you can apply to nature too.
Well, yeah, because everything has to deal with resource scarcity, right? And the thing is, again, that's another word that in economics doesn't mean exactly the same thing. Like, if I go to the grocery store, I probably wouldn't describe cucumbers as scarce because, I could buy more than I really want. But in economics, all scarcity means is that there aren't enough of a good for everyone to have as much as they want as soon as they want, which is the case for anything with a price, basically. The reason it has a price is because if it didn't, people would use more of it than is available. If cucumbers were free, people would just take home sacks of them, and then there wouldn't be enough cucumbers.
I know.
If cucumbers were free, I would have like cucumbers over my eyelids every night as I go to bed. I would put cucumbers in every one of my glasses of water. I would eat cucumber all sorts of things because they're free, and I like cucumbers. It's one of my favorite vegetables. So if I could just take home as many as I wanted, I would take home like 50 or 60 every time I went to the grocery store. It's because I would have to pay for that I don't. And that's what scarcity means in economics. There isn't enough to go around for everyone to get as much as they want. Not as much as they need. It's want.
I read this comment, burn cucumbers for power, and I'm immediately reminded of the really one of the many off-color Admiral Rickover isms. So for those in the chat that are unaware,
oh goodness, here we go.
Hyman Rickover is the father of the U.S. nuclear navy, and by golly, was he a character.
Yeah, by all accounts, he was a giant dick.
Yeah, he was a giant dick.
I say we burn bananas in nuclear reactors for power. Nuclear bananas.
That potassium decay, man.
I don't think potassium is easily fissible, though.
No, it's not.
We'll find a way.
So, nuclear reactors have to be shielded, right? And you need things like lead. Lead makes a very good shielding material. And so the story goes that Admiral Rickover was asked by like some budget committee if they could use like the gold from Fort Knox. Could they use that for shielding? Because they had a lot of that. And he supposedly replied, well, we've got a lot of Protestant babies too, but I don't think they make good shields.
Oddly, gold actually isn't a bad shield.
No, but it's just...
Yeah, it's a very... it's like a modest proposal level of trolling.
Yeah.
Which, in case the chat does a modest proposal is shorthand for a longer title, but basically the modest proposal was, hey, meat is expensive, so let's just eat Irish babies.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
And it was supposed to be a satire.
Despite the number of cannibalism references I've made tonight, I'm not pro cannibalism.
Hey, not technically illegal in the United States as long as you're actually authorized to deal with that body, which usually isn't the case, but...
Well, okay, so before we started streaming, Josh and I were talking about Bob's Burgers, which is a delightful show, but if you're unaware, Bob's Burgers was initially pitched as a show about a family of cannibals.
And isn't that the theme of the first episode anyway? The rumor starts that they're cannibals?
Of the first episode.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then later I referenced Fine Young Cannibals. I referenced that band. So I've made several cannibals.
So next time on Maddie's channel, we're gonna have a viewing party for Green Holocaust. Horror movie about people who get kidnapped by cannibals in the Amazon.
Oh! I watched the Cinema Snob episode.
Yeah, there was a time when there was a little niche for like uncontacted tribe horror movie that was like a little niche genre of like exploitation horror films. Yeah.
Aw. Thank you. And you really should go back and watch the beginning because I'm just saying, Chick Tract dramatic reading with Dr. Josh.
It was excellent.
I'm really proud of that.
I mean, Chick Tracts are...
Jack Chick only gets better.
Yeah.
And worse. I was going to say, Jack Tracts are some of the most, like... It's basically like the hipsteriest thing that I enjoy because I enjoy it at an entirely ironic level. There's nothing actually redeeming about Chick Tracts, but the fact that they go in so hard on being so horrible, it's like, how do you not love that level of just earnestness and how terrible a single person can be when writing comics?
Yeah.
He didn't like D&D.
He did not.
That's how terrible a person he was.
There's a whole short film that's just a live action Chick Tract of D&D. I think Chat was talking about it earlier.
Someone bought the rights to that.
Yeah.
And the thing was, though, it wasn't actually a group of Christians trying to make an anti-D&D movie. It was a bunch of people who were fans of D&D who wanted to make like the best satirical version of the film they could. But when they showed it to Jack Chick, he didn't catch on to the satirical nature of it. He just thought it was being played straight because that's how out of touch Jack Chick was.
Well, they also kind of just played it very straight, which made it satirical, right? Like it was that was brilliant.
Of course, Tom Hanks also starred in an anti-D&D propaganda film that was actually a feature-length, like Hollywood produced. Was it Tunnels and Trolls?
I think it was Tunnels and Trolls. I
think the title is Tunnel and Trolls, and in it, Tom Hanks plays a person who he's so into playing the D&D stand in the game that he loses all sense of reality and ends up thinking about committing suicide in the sewers or something because he can't release his character from a curse or some stupidness like that. At the end, all of his friends have to surround him and say, like, no, it was all just a game. Don't worry about it. You don't have to kill yourself.
Oh, no. But the movie ends with Tom Hanks' character being committed to like a mental hospital because he's so disassociated from reality that he thinks he's living his D&D game. And this is like, I mean, like, I guess the one good thing to come out of the Satanic Panic was Tom Hanks' movie career. Because that was his first role. That was his first role.
I mean, his acting isn't terrible in it. Like, given the material he had, he didn't do a bad job. It's just, it's sort of like the reefer madness of like the early '80s. It's like there was something that, like, you're just making up the wildest crap you can because it's not popular. You're gonna make a propaganda film about it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons back with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition. So that was on the tail end of the Satanic Panic. We're talking like, like the early to mid 90s. Mm-hmm. And my parents were evangelical Christians, and I was like, they might not want me to do this. So I took it upon myself to like write a little essay about this. Like, here, this is why you shouldn't be worried if I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. And they read, I'm like, all right, don't summon any demons. And I was like, okay, sure. Then of course we did anyway.
No demons.
Yeah, just dragons are fine.
Dragons are fine.
Yeah. Maybe trolls too.
Yeah. Trolls are okay.
Look, clench your butthole and keep the heresy out. 'Cause no demons.
Yeah.
So the Satanic Panic was a weird thing, man, and it ties into I remember I feel like people only ever talk about Satanic Panic for D&D, and then the Satanic child abuse scare as separate things, but they're really not separate things.
They're not.
They were happening. The child abuse thing happened a little bit earlier, and it continued into the Satanic Panic about D&D. But in both cases, there were these weird paranoid delusions that there were these horrible Satanist cults across America living under your noses, kidnapping children and getting children into Satanism by making them play games with math rocks. I am sure that no longer exists.
Are you sure it's not? Okay, when my parents, within the last year, moved out of the house I grew up in, right? Which we had lived in, they had lived in since 93. Okay. And I was helping them move and go through some stuff. And I 100% found where my dad had in very neat files all of mine and my sister's letters to Santa.
Aww.
I know. Aww. So if I had written an essay like that, it would have been in this file, right?
So my parents actually did move house less than a year ago. So if something like that exists, they probably would have it, but I don't think it does, because one thing is not too long before they moved, maybe 6 months before they moved, they were clearing out a lot of stuff, and I actually happened to be there. I was visiting, and I was there for a lot of that clean out, and I did not see anything like that when they were clearing out their various storage spaces and whatnot. And I did find quite a few things that had been mine, including a Walkman. That's a very valuable thing to have in 2019.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. Who are you, Star Wars?
Seriously, I wish I had a tape that was as cool as either of his mixtapes.
Yeah, I think I have the Satanic Panic to blame for why teenage Maddie only felt like she was allowed to listen to Christian rock music.
Oh man, look, there's some good Christian music out there, but a lot of it is trash.
A lot of it's trash. But then I weirdly got I was 15 in 2005 when The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance was released. That was my jam. If you were 15 when that was released, that was all you listened to.
Satanic Panic also delayed your entry into D&D?
Sorry, what?
What? Did the Satanic Panic also delay your entry into D&D, or by the time you were old enough for D&D, was that already just gone?
I have only gotten into D&D in the last year.
Oh wow.
I played one game in college, and it just I didn't even know it existed when I was in middle school and high school. I had never heard of it. And then, I played it must have been 4th edition. I tried to play one game and got really overwhelmed because it was my freshman year at MIT and I panicked.
And it was 4th edition.
And it was 4th edition, so I was like, maybe later, guys. And then they all graduated. But
look, there are Warrants in 4th edition, but I'm a big fan that it was a lot of people's first introduction to D&D because it had ridiculously complicated combat rules.
Gotcha.
It had way too much of a focus on the crunchiness and not nearly enough on the storytelling aspects. Yeah. And it's such a weird. It's completely not completely, but it's a very different game from what came before or after it. And so I feel like a lot of the people I know who got in at 4th edition, they carry some of those norms along with them, or it was a bit discouraging. I don't know as many people who got super into it in 4th and then carried into 5th. I know a fair few people who were like, oh yeah, I played 4th edition, and then I just kind of stopped. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay, change to Grups. Yeah, I've heard good things about that. I play so right now I play in a Pathfinder First Edition campaign, and I'm DMing a Pathfinder Second Edition campaign.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
I have so many rule sets in my head.
And are you planning a D&D 5th edition campaign?
I am, but luckily I watch a lot of actual play shows, and those are all in 5th edition. Okay. And that's a great way to learn all of the rules.
You know, I've heard you're going to be DMing a game. It's going to have some guy called Tdlane and Dapper Dino in it. And
Tdlane and Dapper Dino. That's correct.
Got shit given, you know, those people.
Yeah,
so much fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've been writing a lot for that. I'm very excited. Also, if anyone wants to teach me Roll20, good God.
Oh, I can help you with that. That's not too bad. Yeah. I've DM'd on Roll20 for a few years now, so I can definitely help you with that. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, I heard that Pathfinder was based off of D&D 3.5. Where like Pathfinder 4th edition came out, or D&D 4th edition came out, and Pathfinder was like, just kidding, these rules. So
yeah, well, so what happened was in 3rd edition, there was this thing called the Open Gaming License, and it was Wizards of the Coast's attempt to make it so that third parties could release modules and campaign supplements and expansions for 3rd edition, because if you wanted to play them, you would generally have to buy the the core rule books, or at least the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. So they figured if someone else writes a module, but in order to play it, people have to buy our books anyway, then that's just good for us.
Yeah.
But then it turns out that the Pathfinder publishers found a way that basically they could just release their own core rule books as alternative core rule books under the same license. And that is how they basically kept edition 3, well, technically 3.5 alive for this whole time.
Yeah. So I have to say, also in my infinite spare time when I'm not being a grad student, right, I also am writing a Pathfinder like module aimed at kids like 8 to 13. And I am trying to get my small cousins, of which I have many, to play test it for me.
I might be working on a character portrait.
We've got a very rare footage of Dapper Dino doing 3D work. I've never seen this before.
Yeah. So as an artificer, I can make shields, and so I infused the shield as a +1 shield.
Ooh, love it.
It's very fancy. It's alive because that's the thing I'm doing. When I infuse things, I actually make abominations of horribleness as my infusions.
Also, okay, while we're watching Dapper play, tell me, chat, if this is a thing that would be interesting to y'all, you wonderful 25 people that are still hanging out with us. I'm very proud of you. Okay. I think I may have finally found the fusion of the things I love, which is science and specifically weather, and fantasy and specifically Dungeons and Dragons. Would anybody be interested in a like legit science breakdown of what the weather and climate would be like in different Dungeons, like D&D campaign settings for like, hey, if you're in this location, it's going to be like it's a tropical region, so they're going to have a rainstorm at 3 p.m. every day for these months, and this is how you should play that. I'm seriously thinking about like when I can't do another YEC breakdown, I'm thinking about doing like fantasy weather analysis.
Fantasy weather.
That would be awesome. Because here's the thing: too many D&D games are just like, oh, it's like early summer and it doesn't rain for the entire campaign.
Yeah,
and it's like that. I get why you would like. That's not how.
Oh, hey, Dapper, your audio's gotten really weird.
Dapper, you've turned into Robo Dino.
Yeah.
That probably fixed it right there.
Okay. I also really want to do a guide, at least I know there's homebrew for it. And actually, Dapper, you probably know more 5th edition rules than I do. In Pathfinder, there's a druid can be a storm druid. So you can just do a weather druid. And I would love to break down like, hey, this is how you make a tornado. Like, this is how you make hail. This is what you need to do. This is how these spells would be flavored.
A recipe for a druid.
Yeah,
yeah. Speaking about fantasy wear, I love Lord of the Rings. Boy, does it wear its climate not make sense.
yeah.
Because you have the Misty Times, giant mountain range, and then the Anduin Vale, where the Anduin River runs, which is a really fertile area, and Mirkwood, which is still wet, and you're still wet up until you get past Erebor, and then it starts drying out. How does that work? Because there's no rain from the north, no rain from the west.
Yeah.
I'll say,
and there's mountains in the east.
In 5th edition, if you want to do a druid that has a lot of weather spells, especially, my recommendation would basically be a circle of the land and then choose Arctic, and then like it's got like sleet storm and ice storm, but you can also make sure that you prepare control weather spells. And I mean, it says Arctic, but you can just reflavor it as weather, or you could take some like levels in Tempest Cleric or something.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, this is the best. This is the best comment. You win, David. I still don't know what he meant.
Oh my goodness! So when I heard that at first, I thought he said wave, because electromagnetic wave is something that is a thing.
Oh, I know what an electromagnetic wave is, right? Like, yeah.
Right, and that's why I was like, well, at first when you said that's not a thing, I was like, wait, that is a thing. And then I had to like go back and listen, and I was like, oh, he said something entirely different. Because my stupid brain thought that maybe he might have said something that kind of made sense, but of course not, because it's Nathan Thompson.
Yeah,
right.
Humans have autocorrect.
Right.
Yeah.
Our brains have built-in autocorrect because of Nathan Thompson. That's why.
We do. Well, yeah. Okay, so guys, we've been going for almost 2 hours.
All right.
So I'm probably gonna head out. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you so much to Dapper and TD and Dan and Josh and everybody that came to hang out tonight. And thank you so much, chat. There's been like 20 to 30 people watching this whole time, which just blows my mind. So you guys are absolutely wonderful. Should be scripted video, climate dynamics. Tomorrow it's on CO2 feedback loops, CO2 feedback loops specifically, and how that relates to paleoclimate. And then we'll be
getting into Easter.
Right, yeah. Also tomorrow's Easter.
I feel like there better be a rabbit or something in this video.
Oh, maybe. It's not edited yet. It's going up tomorrow, though.
There's still time. There's still time. You can add in a bunny.
A rogue bunny. Ooh, a rabbit folk rogue, maybe. Anyway. And yeah. Okay, sorry, my brain is dead. Everybody, you guys are great. And I'm so happy I got 1,000 subs. If you guys want to help me out, please don't feel obligated. But if you've got the bandwidth, I need view hours. So even if you like put it on in the background and just click mute, that would help me out a lot. Because I'm trying to get to monetization so I can do things like have my channel pay for itself, and afford faster and better internet so that I don't have to stream from my kitchen.
Go to the uploads tab on the channel. There should be a play all button that will put them, every single one of Manny's uploads, into a playlist and just play them in sequence. Leave that window active. There you go.
Yeah, that would actually help a lot. And then, yeah. So you guys are amazing, and I think we're gonna end it there. So good night, team. I hope you have a great weekend.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.